All right, welcome to the evaluation portal. So you can see the portal here has two main features: to search and discover programs and evaluations, and to evaluate your own equity programs. So you can access these two features here on these buttons, or also at the top in the menu bar. So let's go to search programs. So here you can search programs and evaluations. We currently only have two programs, our own, as examples here. So to search, you just type the relevant search words in the search bar, for example, STEM, and the relevant program appears. In this case, evaluation of our own office. You can filter using the available options. For example, you can filter by audience type, and the evaluations containing those audiences will appear. So in this case, again, it will be the Women in STEM Ambassador initiatives. Then you can bookmark, or you can view your search results. Here you can see the program description, the audiences, the outcomes of the program, the intended outcomes indicators. If you want more detail, you can go in and read the full evaluation, and everything is there for you to view, all of the details. You can also connect with the people running a program by contacting them via email by clicking on the Contact Us button right under their profile photo. Now, the next feature is to evaluate your own program. So you just come up and click on the top menu item here. Now, this page contains all the information you need about evaluation basics. So the benefits of evaluating and publishing, how to use the portal, and also we have some examples here. I always say see one, do one. It's always easier to work off an example. To start evaluating your program, you just click here. You need to create a user profile. I already have one, so I will just log in. Now here you have all your details. When you create your own account, once you've entered your details, you'll receive an email with a link to verify your identity. And once you're all ready to go, you click Create New Evaluation. Now, on this program overview page, you need to enter some basic details about your program. I will create one here for our STEM careers programs for kids called Future You Australia, which is a national program funded by the Commonwealth Department of Industry, Science and Resources. You also enter a short description of your program, and then you're ready to start the 5-step process of evaluation, which is based on the framework from the evaluation guide published a couple years ago. So the define stage sets the scene for your program. It prompts you to define your goals first. What do you want to achieve with your program? And all you need to do is select the options that apply to your program from the drop-down menus. So we used the Women in STEM Decadal Plan and a thorough literature review, and we came up with a list of the goals for you to choose from. So whichever ones apply to your program, make sure you keep it focused. 3 to 5 goals is probably good. You don't want to, have 10 to 15 goals. You can always also just put some extra detail in the text box if you need to. Next, you're prompted to identify the overarching problem that your program addresses. So the options displayed in this drop-down menu only relate to the goals you selected above. So some drop-down menus you will see throughout are dependent on the previous choices that you make. Next, you'll define your program audiences. So that's the audience. Who is your program for? In our case, Future You is for students, so primary and we say middle school, so years 7 and 8, as well as their parents and carers and teachers and educators. You'll also need to define your evaluation audiences, and those are the people who are interested in your evaluation findings. In our case for Future You, that's government and policymakers, the parents, but also our sponsors and teachers and educators. Now you'll see some relevant resources here at the bottom, like the National Evaluation Guide, so you can access those. Now onto the plan stage, which builds on the previous stage. Here you'll identify your program activities. In our case, that's comms, developing resources, our Future You website, and also some fun events. Then you can always, of course, put more detail in the text box to kind of elaborate on those. Then you will identify your inputs. So what is needed to make your program happen? Funding, staff, materials, contractors, anything like that. You'll also identify your outputs. So here you can you might see some metrics like number of people, number of views. Those are outputs. They're not the measures of success, which is what we typically think evaluation is. But here your evaluation will measure the change you want to create. So you will be reporting on outputs eventually, and we'll get to that. But most importantly, you'll be measuring change. So you'll next be prompted to identify your evaluation priorities and the key questions that you want your evaluation to answer. And those two things relate to each other. And next, you will identify your indicators. Now, those are the markers that demonstrate the change you're trying to create. Now, it might sound daunting, but it's not because we did the work for you. So you can see there that the goals you selected previously are already there, and we have identified what are the relevant indicators for those goals that you've previously selected. So there you have it. You've identified how you're going to measure your goals, and let's move on to the design stage. So here you'll decide what data collection tools you will use. And again, that might be daunting, but we've made it as easy as possible. So the indicators you selected are already there, and the drop-down menus show you the reputable tools that relate to those indicators. In our case, for Future You, we've opted to go with the Youth Insights Survey for parents, for students, and you'll see later on for teachers. So here you can view the survey, all of the information, all of the survey questions are there, and they're available by indicator. So depending on the indicators that you need to measure, it's all there ready for you to kind of use and pull those questions. So we've used the Youth Insights Survey for students and for parents. For the educators related indicator, we're also using the Youth Insights Survey for teachers and career advisors. And for STEM identity, to measure STEM identity, we are using the Role STEM Identity Survey. So again, you can see here when I click on it, all the information, citation, the validity and reliability measures if you need them, and all of the questions that relate to those indicators. So in our case for Future You, those top ones are the ones that we're going to be looking to use. So now that you have your data collection measures, you will be prompted to think about your evaluation approach. So for Future You, we'll be using a pre-test, post-test, which means that we will be serving people before they engage with Future You, and then again after they engage with Future You. You can always put a little bit more detail just to make things easier for those who are reading your evaluation. In terms of data collection method, we are using mixed methods. So we'll be collecting quantitative data, that's numbers like from Likert scales, but also qualitative data in the form of open-ended responses to our open-ended questions in our survey. And finally, you will be prompted to think about how you will safeguard your data. So what kind of data are you collecting? How will you store it? Who has access to it? And also, how long will you store your data for? So in our case, we will store the data for 7 years. Now, with your program and evaluation planned and designed, it's time for you to put it into action and execute. Now, this step also guides you through how to ethically carry out your evaluation. In our case, we will be recruiting participants, but that's not always the case. So here we provide how we will invite the participants and how we will get informed consent. And yes, we will be following the consent requirements outlined in the National Statement of Ethical Conduct. If you plan to publish your evaluation findings in an academic journal, you will need approval from a Human Research Ethics Committee. We plan to do that, so we got approval. Don't worry, you may most of you watching today will probably not need to, that's not your goal, and so you can just select no to that if you don't plan to publish in an academic journal. You're also prompted to provide some information about how you plan to analyze your data and interpret those findings. So there's some options there, and you can also just provide more detail if you need to. Finally, it is time to share. So this is the most important step, in my opinion. Here you can report on your findings of your evaluation, reflect on what worked, what didn't, and how to improve programs. So if you don't have evaluation findings yet, select no, and you can come back later down the track when you do have the findings. If you do have collected and analyzed your data and you have your findings, select yes. You'll be prompted to complete the reporting section, fill out the key findings for each of the indicators that you selected in the plan stage, provide details on those program outputs, so those numbers that we spoke about earlier, but more importantly, the outcomes for each indicator, intended, unintended benefits and consequences, lessons learned, recommendations, it's all there. Now for future you, we're in the process of collecting data, so I'll just select no, and I'll come back and fill those things in later when we have results. You can upload any supplementary materials to include in your evaluation, like survey questions. If you're finished your evaluation and your organization produced a nice, shiny, formal report, you can upload it here. You can export a PDF of your evaluation to keep in your files or share with others. So there's the PDF, there's everything that I've just filled in, and I can save that to my computer. And then you can publish your evaluation on the portal for others to learn from. Even if you don't have evaluation findings yet, which is the case here, you can publish your evaluation plan on the portal. This way, people can find your program, learn about what you're doing, how you're measuring your goals. It just brings that accountability and visibility and transparency that we've been talking about to your program, even if it's not complete yet. Your evaluations will then be on your dashboard. You can unpublish or edit them at any point if you need. You can add collaborators who will work on these evaluations with you. So I'll add my colleague Becky to this evaluation. And then if you take a look at who is scrolled down, and you can see that Becky has been added to my team as well. And that always just depends on, you can add different people to different evaluations. If we go back to the search feature, you can see that Future You Australia is there published for everyone to see. It's displayed as in progress to indicate that we are still working on it. And there you have it, the portal, a simple tool to help us evaluate and share our findings.